Day 8 of the brutal conflict between Iran and Israel continues to escalate. Israel launched yet another wave of bombing targeting Iranian military nerve centers. Iran's sophisticated missile arsenal is tearing through Israel's defenses, revealing a vulnerability that threatens the very core of its security. The battle rages and the cost to Israel is mounting far beyond mere financial strain. Our next report telling you more.
Missile trails scorch the sky as Iran unleashes wave after wave of advanced firepower, bleeding Israel in a relentless campaign of attrition. Friday morning began in Israel with yet another wave of missile attacks. These are the scenes of destruction in the southern city of Bisha. The same city was hit on Thursday. The ruins of Soroka Medical Center tell the tale of the devastating attack.
It's so sad. I never thought something like this could happen. Never. It's only medical professionals here and patients. And look what happened to us.
Hypersonic missiles, which are extremely difficult to intercept, slam into Israeli military installations and critical infrastructure, leaving smoldering craters and shattered command centers. The Israeli Air Force's relentless sorties cannot stem the tide as Iran's missile factories, some hidden deep within the mountains, continue to churn out new weapons.
The Islamic Republic is continuing to launch ballistic missile attacks at Israel, 11 rounds of which since the fighting started. And Iran is largely engaging in what we call a counter-value operation, meaning they're targeting civilian population centers largely in a bid to erode the will of the Israelis to fight.
Iranian officials taunt that a new generation of missiles are still on the shelf, hinting at even deadlier barrages to come. With each passing day, Israel's strategic depth erodes, its population gripped by fear and uncertainty as sirens wail from Haifa to Beersheba.
It started before 1 week. It's very scared, and I feel very, very bad right now. I hope it's finished right now. It's a dream. I think it's finished a long time, like 1 month or 2 months, something like that.
It's terrible. Destroyed buildings. You know that moments before people were sitting here hoping that it wouldn't hit, and they unfortunately suffered a direct hit. Their cars are destroyed, their homes are collapsed, people are severely injured.
Iran's tactics are bleeding Israel dry. The Arrow system, Israel's last line of defense against long-range ballistic threats, is running perilously low on interceptors. With stocks dwindling fast, analysts warn that Israel faces only 10 days of adequate defense before critical depletion. For its part, Israel still controls the skies, executing deep strikes on Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure. But even successful hits don't blunt Iran's escalating threat. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And well, joining us live on the broadcast is Andrew Fox, former Airborne Army officer and West Asia specialist. Welcome to WION, Mr. Fox. First up, of course, Trump has set a timeline of 2 weeks on Iran. Do you think that this perhaps goes against with what Israel was expecting? And at this point of time, can Israel keep up with the same level of strikes against Iran in the next 15 days as well?
I think the United States, Mr. Netanyahu was certainly hoping to bring them into the fight. I don't think that's going to happen. And actually, I don't think the Americans will add a huge amount of value. They can certainly help striking some of the deeper sites in Iran, which would be useful for Israel's campaign. But as for the rest of what they're doing, Israel has it fully in hand. And I have to say, the report you've just shown was one of the biggest sort of nonsense reports I've ever seen in my entire life. The Israeli missile defences have had a 95% success rate against the Iranian barrages. Israeli strikes within Iran itself have destroyed launcher after launcher. Over half Iran's pre-war rocket stocks are now destroyed or fired. They've barely landed a significant hit in Israel, and Israel has absolutely taken Iran to pieces. This is one of the most one-way wars in modern history, and it's absolutely Israel with the upper hand here. So the scaremongering about Israeli missile defences, I think, is very, very poor reporting.
Mr. Fox, you say that you don't agree with the report we showed, and you say that Israel is rather has an upper hand on this, but reports suggest that the Iron Dome defense system has been breached, and also that Israel is running low on arrow interceptors at this point of time. And perhaps that is why the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants America's direct military involvement, which America has really not replied and heed to. What do you have to say on that?
No, I don't think that's a fair or accurate description. As I said, 95% of Iranian missiles have been stopped. We know Israel had 10 to 14 days of supplies of rocket interceptors, but that was at the rate of initial Iranian strikes. Iranian strikes have been hammered so hard, they're now in single figures with each wave of rockets. Where Iran started off last year firing hundreds, they're now barely able to fire 10 because their launchers have been destroyed and their rocket stocks have been severely degraded by Israeli strikes. Therefore, we can take that 10 to 14 days and we can significantly extend it because the scale of Iranian attacks is so heavily reduced.
All right. All right, Mr. Fox, you've clearly dismissed that report of how Israel is running low on ammunition, and the reports also suggest that it only has ammo for 10 to 12 days. We'll discuss that further, but stay with us. We are going across to some breaking news at this point of time. We'll come back to you in just a short while. Mr. Fox, you said you don't agree with our report, and you say that Israel has the upper hand at this point of time. Do you think that Israel has the firepower right now to continue fighting against Iran? Keeping in mind the reports suggest that Israel only has 10 to 12 days of defense left.
So I think we need to reframe this. They're not fighting Iran at all. This is, like I said, one of the most one-way wars in modern history. It's a case that Israel is dropping hundreds of missiles and rockets onto Iranian targets, and barely single figures of rockets are getting through into Israel itself. This is so one-sided that frankly it's painful to watch. Iran has no missile defences, has no air defences, and Israel has complete freedom of movement over the entirety of Iran from the air. The bigger question, I think, is whether or not Israel has the missiles to keep hitting targets within Iran, and the Americans have got $2 billion worth of forward-loaded munitions stored in Israel itself and the ability to resupply them as the battle goes on. And even though Mr. Trump is hesitant to join the fight itself, America has shown no indication that they're going to cut their logistic and munitions support to Israel. And if Israel keeps striking Iranian missile targets at this rate, there's a chance that Iran might run out of the ability to strike Israel completely. And so the idea that 10 to 12 days is still accurate is not true, because at the start of the war, with hundreds of missiles a day, then maybe 10 to 12 days would have been correct. But as I said, Iran are now hitting Israel with just 1 or 2 missiles in each wave, and Israel is more than capable of dealing with that.
Mr. Fox, but you say Iran is only hitting 1 to 2 missiles at Israel. What about Iran's hypersonic and ballistic missiles, to name some, Sejil, which it launched against Israel just yesterday?
Yep, they were stopped by the Iron Dome. You know, Israel has this in hand, unfortunately, and you know the scenes you're showing are terrible, but they're a tiny fraction of the missiles that Iran has actually fired. You know, there is a, Israeli planners, defense planners have a 90% planning rate. of interceptions of Iranian missiles, and they've actually exceeded that since the war started. So yes, something will always get through. That is unfortunately the nature of warfare. But Iran has barely scored a scratch on Israel, whereas Israel, on the other hand, is absolutely taking the Iranian regime to pieces, having killed over 30 senior officials and commanders and destroyed hundreds of missile launch sites.
All right, Mr. Fox, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you.